Your second cup of coffee isn't actually giving you energy. It's borrowing energy from 3 hours from now and charging you interest you won't feel until the crash hits right in the middle of your afternoon, right when you need that energy the most. In Japan, a specific 5-step morning sequence, simple enough to sound almost too obvious to matter, quietly does what a second, third, and sometimes fourth cup of coffee is being asked to do in most American mornings. And it doesn't involve caffeine at all for the first 90 minutes after waking. Which sounds impossible to anyone currently reaching for coffee within the first 60 seconds of getting out of bed. Today, I'll walk you through all 5 steps in order, because the order is doing almost as much work as the steps themselves. Stay until the 5th, because it's the one that sounds the most extreme and is actually the simplest of all. Step 3 is the one most people get backwards without ever realizing it, and step 5 is the one that sounds the least related to coffee of the entire 5, right up until you understand what it's actually protecting. Let's begin. Step 1. A full glass of water before anything else touches your mouth, including coffee. After 6 to 8 hours without a single sip of anything, your body wakes up mildly dehydrated every single morning, and mild dehydration alone produces a sluggish, foggy feeling almost identical to what people usually blame on needing caffeine. Here's the mechanism worth understanding. Coffee is a diuretic, meaning it actually pulls more water out of a body that's already running low first thing in the morning, so the very drink reached for to fix the fog is quietly making the actual cause of it slightly worse. In Japan, a full glass of water immediately upon waking is treated as the true first task of the day, before checking a phone, before brushing teeth, before anything else, a small, almost boring ritual that quietly resets a body running on hours of zero hydration before it's ever asked to do anything more demanding. The shift: keep a full glass of water by your bed the night before, and drink the entire thing the moment you're upright, before coffee ever enters the picture. It costs nothing, takes less than a minute, and yet almost nobody does it consistently. Mostly because coffee has been marketed as the obvious first move for so long that water feels like an unnecessary extra step, rather than the actual starting point it's always been. That's step 1. And it alone resolves more of that early fog than most people expect. Step 2. Natural sunlight within the first 30 minutes of waking, even on a cloudy day, even for just a few minutes standing by a window or stepping outside. Here's why this matters far more than it sounds like it should. Morning light exposure is one of the strongest signals your circadian rhythm receives all day, telling your body clearly that the day has begun, and helping set the timing for when cortisol should naturally rise and when melatonin should naturally fall later that night. Skipping the signal doesn't remove the need for energy. It just leaves your body guessing, often defaulting to feeling groggier for longer than it needs to, sometimes for hours, simply because the internal clock never received the clear, unambiguous morning signal it was designed to look for. A signal no amount of caffeine later in the day is actually built to replace, no matter how strong the cup. In Japan, a short walk or a few minutes outside first thing is treated as part of the morning itself, not an optional extra for days with spare time. The shift: get outside or at least right next to a window within 30 minutes of waking, for at least a few genuine minutes before checking a screen. Even on a gray, overcast morning, natural light carries far more of this signal than an indoor bulb ever could, so the excuse of bad weather rarely holds up once you actually understand what the light is doing behind the scenes. That's step 2. Step 3, the one most people get backwards: delaying coffee for the first 90 minutes after waking, rather than reaching for it immediately. Here's the mechanism behind why this specific window matters so much. Cortisol, your body's natural wake-up hormone, is already naturally elevated for the first hour or two after waking on its own, and caffeine consumed during that natural peak does very little extra for alertness while still building the same tolerance it would at any other time, meaning you're paying the full cost of the caffeine, the tolerance, the eventual crash, for almost none of the actual benefit it's supposed to provide. In Japan, and among researchers studying caffeine timing more broadly, letting that natural cortisol wave do the early work, then introducing caffeine afterward, produces noticeably steadier energy with less afternoon crash than drinking coffee the instant you wake up, essentially letting your own body clock and your coffee take turns rather than fighting for the exact same window at the exact same time. The shift: Hold off on that first cup for as long as reasonably possible after waking, ideally 90 minutes. And notice how much more effect the same cup has once it's not competing with a hormone already doing the job for free. This is the step people resist the most, since the habit of coffee immediately on waking feels almost sacred, but it's also the step most directly responsible for the mid-afternoon crash everyone blames on being tired, rather than on the timing of that very first cup. That's step 3. Step 4. Gentle movement instead of screens as the first real activity of the morning. A short walk, some stretching, even just tidying a room while genuinely moving your body. Here's why movement does something scrolling never manages to replicate. Physical movement increases blood flow and body temperature gradually, both of which naturally support alertness, while a phone screen provides a sharp, artificial spike of stimulation that feels like energy in the moment, but produces nothing lasting once the notifications stop, leaving you right back where you started, just 20 minutes later and considerably more mentally scattered than before you looked. In Japan, a short walk or light movement before sitting down to work is treated as functionally similar to what coffee is being asked to do elsewhere, waking the body up through its own natural mechanisms rather than an external stimulant, quietly doing the same job with none of the tolerance building up behind it over time. The shift, before opening your phone or sitting at a desk, move your body for even 5 minutes, a walk, some stretching, anything that gets you upright and moving. It doesn't need to look like exercise at all. Folding laundry while genuinely moving counts for more than people expect. The point is simply that your body warms up on its own terms before your mind gets pulled somewhere else entirely. That's step 4. And step 5? The one that sounds the most extreme and is actually the simplest of all. No phone at all for the first 30 minutes after waking. Not even a glance at notifications. Here's the counterintuitive part. Checking a phone immediately floods the brain with dozens of tiny disconnected demands all at once, each one triggering a small stress response before the body has even finished its own natural wake-up process. And that flood of early stimulation is exactly what makes the entire rest of the day feel like it needs more caffeine to keep up with an artificially raised baseline. One set before you've even gotten out of bed, let alone had a chance to actually choose how the day should begin. In Japan, protecting this first half hour is treated as one of the most valuable habits of the entire day, more valuable than almost anything accomplished by actually checking messages that early, since nothing read in that window ever changes what needs to happen in the next 30 minutes anyway. The shift. Leave your phone in another room overnight if you can, or simply commit to not touching it for the first 30 minutes, letting your nervous system wake up on its own schedule instead of the schedule your notifications set for you. The first few mornings feel almost uncomfortable, like something important might be missed. But the honest truth is that almost nothing arriving overnight actually needed a response before your own morning had even properly started. That's step 5, and it's quietly the one making the other 4 actually work as well as they do. So here's everything in one breath. Water before coffee. Sunlight before screens. Delay caffeine 90 minutes if you can manage it. Move your body before sitting down. And no phone for the first 30 minutes, no exceptions, however tempting the notification badge looks from across the room. Now, as promised, here's a quick way to see which of these 5 matters most for you personally. Tomorrow morning, try just the first 2, water and sunlight, before doing anything else, and notice honestly how different you feel by mid-morning compared to a normal day. Most people are surprised by how much of what they'd been blaming on needing more coffee was actually solved by those first 2 steps alone. A hydration and light problem quietly dressed up for years as a caffeine problem instead, sold back to them 1 cup at a time. If those first 2 steps go well, add the third the following morning, delaying that first cup a little longer than usual, and pay attention specifically to whether the afternoon slump that normally hits arrives at all, or arrives noticeably later and smaller than it used to. None of this requires giving up coffee entirely, a new supplement, or a single dollar spent on anything. It requires reordering the first 90 minutes of your day: water, light, patience, movement, and quiet, before caffeine is ever introduced into the mix at all. Pick just one of these 5 to try tomorrow morning, the one that felt easiest to imagine actually doing, not the one that sounds most impressive to mention to someone else. Add a second the following week, and a third the week after that, until the full sequence runs quietly in the background, without you ever needing to think of it as a discipline at all. Most people who eventually stop needing that second and third cup never do it by quitting coffee outright. They do it by giving their body a real chance to wake up on its own terms first, so that the coffee they do drink is actually doing something, instead of just patching over a body that never got the signals it needed in the first place. By the end of a month of doing even 3 of these 5 consistently, most people report the exact same thing. Not that they need less coffee out of willpower, but that they simply stop wanting the second and third cup the way they used to, because the crash that used to demand it never really shows up in the same way anymore. You don't need less coffee. You need a morning that isn't already running on empty by the time you pour your first cup, and a body that's been given the chance to actually wake itself up before you start asking a stimulant to do that job for it instead. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 steps do you already break every single morning without thinking twice about it? And how long do you think you could actually go before caving on it tomorrow? Tell me the number in the comments and be honest. Most people find it's either the water or the 90-minute delay, the 2 steps that sound easiest and turn out to be the hardest to actually keep. And if this changed how you think about your own mornings, send it to whoever you know reaches for their 3rd cup before 10 a.m. and wonders why the afternoon crash keeps happening anyway, no matter how much stronger they make each new cup. We'll see you in the next one, and good luck with that first 90 minutes.